In October 1993, Michael Jordan shocked the world by retiring from basketball at the peak of his career. What he didn't expect was the media storm that would follow. Not just him, but his wife and 3 young children. Within hours of his announcement, reporters began camping outside their Highland Park home. What started as aggressive journalism quickly turned into something much darker. Organized stalking of a family with a 6-month-old baby, a 3-year-old, and a 4-year-old. For 6 weeks, the Jordan family lived in terror. Photographers hid in bushes outside their children's schools. Reporters followed them to medical appointments. Strangers went through their garbage looking for stories. Camera flashes lit up their baby's bedroom window at night, when one reporter finally crossed the ultimate line, breaking into their home. While Juanita Jordan was alone with baby Jasmine, Michael Jordan made a decision that would change everything. He didn't just fight back. He declared war. What happened next shocked the sports world, terrified the media industry, and created protections for millions of children that last to this day. This is the story of how the greatest basketball player in the world became something even more important. The father who taught America that some things matter more than fame, fortune, or front-page stories. The safety of children, the sanctity of family, and the power of one parent's love to change the world. The basketball bounced off the rim and rolled across the backyard grass. 4-year-old Jeffrey Jordan chased after it, his little legs pumping hard. His father, Michael Jordan, laughed and scooped up his son along with the ball. "Good try, Jeffrey," Michael said, spinning his boy around. "You almost had it." It was a perfect October morning in 1993 in Highland Park, Illinois. The leaves on the oak trees were turning gold and red. The air was crisp and clean. Michael had been retired from basketball for 3 weeks now, and he was loving every minute with his kids. 3-year-old Marcus ran over, wanting his turn. "Me too, Daddy! Spin me too!" Michael laughed and grabbed Marcus with his other arm. Both boys giggled as their famous father spun them around the backyard. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Inside the house, baby Jasmine was crying. Michael could hear his wife Juanita trying to calm her down. At 6 months old, Jasmine had been fussy lately. Maybe she was getting a tooth. "Boys, let's go help." "Mommy," Michael said, setting his sons down. That's when he noticed the cars. 3 dark sedans were parked across the street from their house. They hadn't been there an hour ago when they came outside to play. Michael squinted in the bright sunlight. He could see people sitting in the cars, but he couldn't make out their faces. "Daddy, who are those people?" Jeffrey asked, following his father's gaze. "I don't know, buddy," Michael said quietly, but he had a bad feeling in his stomach. The phone started ringing inside the house. It had been ringing all morning. Ever since Michael announced his retirement from the Chicago Bulls, reporters had been calling non-stop. They all wanted to know the same thing. Why did the greatest basketball player in the world quit at age 30? Michael picked up Jeffrey and Marcus. "Come on, boys, let's go inside." As they walked toward the house, Michael saw a flash of light from one of the cars. It looked like sunlight bouncing off glass, or maybe a camera lens. Inside, Juanita was pacing the kitchen, bouncing baby Jasmine on her shoulder. The phone was still ringing. Jasmine was still crying. "Michael, thank goodness," Juanita said. She looked tired. Dark circles showed under her beautiful eyes. "The phone hasn't stopped ringing. And Jasmine won't calm down. I think all the noise is scaring her." Michael took the baby from his wife. Jasmine's little face was red from crying. He bounced her gently and made soft sounds. Slowly, she began to quiet down. "Who keeps calling?" Michael asked. Reporters from newspapers, TV stations, magazines. They all want interviews about your retirement. The phone rang again. Michael looked at the caller ID. Chicago Tribune. "Don't answer it," he said. Through the kitchen window, Michael could see their backyard where they had just been playing. But he could also see something else. In the bushes at the edge of their property, something metallic glinted in the sunlight. "Juanita," Michael said quietly, "take the kids upstairs." "Why? What's wrong?" "Just do it. Please." Juanita looked scared, but she didn't argue. She gathered Jeffrey and Marcus. "Come on, boys. Let's go play in your room." Michael watched them go upstairs, still holding baby Jasmine. Then he walked to the kitchen window and looked out carefully. There, crouched behind their fence, was a man with a big camera. The man was taking pictures of their house. When he saw Michael in the window, he didn't stop. He kept shooting. Michael's jaw tightened. This was supposed to be his private home, his safe place. The place where his children could play without anyone watching. The phone rang again. This time, Michael answered it. "Hello? Mr. Jordan, this is Tommy Chen from the Chicago Tribune. Congratulations on an amazing career. Our readers are dying to know." Michael hung up. The phone rang again immediately. "Mr. Jordan, this is Rita Valdez from Celebrity Sports Weekly. We'd love to do a photo shoot with your beautiful family." Michael unplugged the phone from the EDV wall, but his cell phone started ringing right away. Upstairs, he could hear Juanita reading to the boys. Her voice was calm and steady, but Michael knew she was scared too. Jasmine had fallen asleep in his arms, her tiny hand clutching his finger. Michael walked to the front window and peeked through the curtains. The 3 cars were still there. Now there were people standing beside them. Men and women with cameras and notebooks. One woman was talking into a phone. A man was setting up what looked like a small satellite dish. They weren't just calling anymore. They were camping out. Michael felt something he had never felt before, not even in the biggest basketball games. He felt helpless. On the court, he always knew what to do. He could outplay anyone, outthink any defense, make any shot when it mattered most. But this was different. These people weren't playing by basketball rules. There was no referee to call fouls. No final buzzer to end the game. His phone buzzed with a text message. "Mr. Jordan, we know you're home. Just 5 minutes of your time?" Another text. "Your fans deserve to know the truth about your retirement." Another. "What about your children's future? Don't they deserve their story to be told, right?" Michael looked down at baby Jasmine sleeping peacefully in his arms. She was so small, so innocent. She didn't ask to be born into this craziness. None of his children did. The doorbell rang. Then it rang again. And again. "Daddy?" Jeffrey's voice called from upstairs. "Why is someone ringing our doorbell so much?" Michael walked to the front door but didn't open it. Through the peephole, he could see a young man in a suit holding a microphone. Behind him was a woman with a large camera. "Mr. Jordan?" the man called through the door. "I'm Tommy Chen from the Tribune. I just have a few quick questions." Michael didn't answer. "Mr. Jordan, your fans are worried about you. They just want to know you're okay." The camera woman moved to the side window, trying to get a shot through the curtains. Michael's phone rang again. When he looked at the screen, he saw his agent's number. "Hello, David." "Michael, what's going on? I've got reporters calling me, saying you won't talk to them. They're making it sound like you're hiding something big." "I'm not hiding anything. I retired. That's it. I want to spend time with my family." "I know. But maybe if you just gave them one interview..." No. Michael's voice was firm. I don't owe them anything. Michael, they're not going to just go away. Michael looked out at the growing crowd in front of his house. More cars were arriving. He counted at least 8 people now, with more cameras than he could count. We'll see about that, Michael said. After he hung up, Michael climbed the stairs to find his family. Juanita was in Jeffrey's room, reading Where the Wild Things Are. Both boys were curled up next to her on the bed. Are the people still outside? She asked quietly. Michael nodded. What do they want? Everything, Michael said. They want to know why I retired. They want to know what I'm going to do next. They want pictures of us, interviews with us. They want our whole life. Jeffrey looked up from the book. Daddy, why do they want pictures of us? Michael sat down on the bed next to his oldest son. How do you explain to a 4-year-old that some people think your private life belongs to everyone? Well, Jeffrey, sometimes when Daddy plays basketball, people get very interested in our family. They want to know about us. But we're not playing basketball, Jeffrey said. We're just playing in our yard. That's right, buddy, we are. Marcus, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. I don't like those people. Why not? Juanita asked gently. They're scary. They have big cameras and they're hiding in our bushes. Michael felt his anger rising again. His 3-year-old son was scared to play in his own backyard because strangers were hiding in the bushes with cameras. It's okay, Marcus, Michael said. Daddy will take care of it. But as he said the words, Michael wondered how. How do you fight people who can stand on a public street and point cameras at your house? How do you protect your children from people who think they have a right to photograph your family? That night, after the kids were in bed, Michael and Juanita sat in their bedroom with the curtains closed tight. This isn't going to stop, is it? Juanita asked. Michael was quiet for a long time. Outside, he could still see car headlights on the street. The reporters were taking shifts, making sure someone was always watching their house. I don't know, he finally said. I've never dealt with anything like this. The kids are scared. Michael. Jeffrey asked me 3 times today if the people outside were going to hurt us. Michael clenched his fists. The idea that his children were afraid in their own home made him furious. What if we just stayed inside for a while? Juanita suggested. Maybe they'll get bored and leave. And what about Jeffrey's school? Marcus's daycare? Jasmine's doctor appointments? We can't become prisoners in our own house. Juanita was quiet. They both knew he was right. Michael walked to the window and peeked through the curtain. In the glow of the streetlight, he could see a woman with a long telephoto lens pointed right at their bedroom window. He dropped the curtain quickly. Juanita, he said, his voice deadly serious. They're taking pictures of our bedroom window. His wife's face went pale. What? There's a photographer out there with a telephoto lens aimed right at this window. Juanita pulled the blanket up to her chin, even though the curtains were closed. Michael, this is crazy. We can't live like this. Michael sat down on the bed, next to his wife. For 13 years, he had been the most famous basketball player in the world. He was used to attention, interviews, and photographers. But this was different. This wasn't about basketball anymore. This was about his family, his children, his wife, people he loved more than anything in the world. Tomorrow, I'm calling our lawyer, Michael said. What can a lawyer do? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. As they tried to fall asleep, car doors kept slamming outside. Voices carried through the night air. Camera flashes lit up their bedroom curtains every few minutes. Around midnight, baby Jasmine woke up crying. Michael went to her room to check on her. As he picked her up from her crib, he noticed light coming through her bedroom curtains. Someone was shining a light at his baby daughter's window. Michael's hands shook with anger as he held Jasmine close. She was 6 months old. 6 months old. And strangers were trying to photograph her while she slept. That's when Michael Jordan made a decision that would change everything. He wasn't going to run away. He wasn't going to hide. And he wasn't going to let anyone scare his children. The storm was just beginning. But Michael Jordan had faced storms before, and he had always found a way to win. This time, though, winning wasn't about scoring points or holding up trophies. This time, winning was about protecting the 3 most precious things in his world: Jeffrey, Marcus, and Jasmine. And Michael Jordan never lost when it really mattered. 3 weeks later, Michael Jordan realized he had never been more wrong about anything in his life. He thought the reporters would get bored and leave. Instead, there were more of them every day. What started as 3 cars had become a small army of news vans, photographers, and curious neighbors who came to gawk at the circus outside the Jordan family home. Michael stood at his kitchen counter, drinking coffee, and watching his 4-year-old son Jeffrey push cereal around his bowl. The little boy hadn't eaten much in days. "Jeffrey, you need to eat your Cheerios," Juanita said gently. She was bouncing baby Jasmine on her hip while trying to pack Marcus's lunch for daycare. "I'm not hungry," Jeffrey mumbled. "But you love Cheerios," Michael said, sitting down next to his son. Jeffrey looked up at his father with serious brown eyes. "Daddy, do I have to go to school today?" Michael's chest tightened. "Why don't you want to go to school, buddy?" "Because of the camera people." Yesterday had been Jeffrey's first day back at North Shore Country Day School since the media circus began. Michael thought the reporters would respect the fact that it was a children's school. He was wrong about that, too. Tommy Chen from the Chicago Tribune had been waiting in the parking lot with his camera. When Michael walked Jeffrey to his classroom, Tommy jumped out from behind a minivan. "Jeffrey! Jeffrey Jordan!" Tommy had shouted, shoving a microphone toward the little boy's face. "How do you feel about your daddy retiring?" Jeffrey had burst into tears and clung to Michael's leg. Mrs. Patricia Wells, Jeffrey's teacher, had rushed over. "Excuse me, this is a school. You can't be here." "Public parking lot, lady," Tommy had said, still pointing his camera at Jeffrey. First Amendment rights. That's when Michael had lost his temper for the first time. "Get that camera away from my son." "Just a few questions, Michael. The public has a right to know." Michael had scooped up Jeffrey and carried him into the school building, but the damage was done. His son spent the whole day asking Mrs. Wells if the cameraman was coming back. Now, sitting at the breakfast table, Jeffrey was too scared to go back. "The camera people won't bother you at school," Michael said, though he wasn't sure if that was true. "Promise?" Jeffrey asked. Michael looked into his son's trusting eyes. "I promise, buddy." But as Michael drove Jeffrey to school that morning, he saw Tommy Chen's car following them. Rita Valdez, the photographer from Celebrity Sports Weekly, was riding in the passenger seat with her long telephoto lens. At the school, Michael parked as close to the building as possible. He grabbed Jeffrey's hand and walked quickly toward the entrance. "Jeffrey! Over here!" Rita called out, snapping pictures as fast as she could. "Give us a smile, sweetie." Jeffrey squeezed his father's hand so hard it hurt. "Daddy, make them stop," Jeffrey whispered. "I'm trying, son." Mrs. Wells was waiting at the classroom door. She was a kind woman in her 50s who had taught preschool. For 20 years, she had never seen anything like this. "Mr. Jordan, I'm so sorry," she said, ushering Jeffrey inside. We've called the police twice, but they say as long as the reporters stay off school property, there's nothing they can do. It's not your fault, Michael said, but inside he was furious. His 4-year-old son shouldn't need police protection to go to preschool. After dropping off Jeffrey, Michael drove to Marcus's daycare center. 3-year-old Marcus was usually excited about seeing his friends and playing with toys, but this morning he was quiet in his car seat. "We're here, Marcus," Michael said, pulling into the daycare parking lot. "Are the picture people here too?" Marcus asked in a small voice. Michael looked around. He didn't see any reporters, but that didn't mean they weren't hiding. "I don't think so, buddy." But as they walked toward the daycare building, a flash went off from behind a tree. Then another. Rita Valdez stepped out from behind a garbage dumpster, her camera clicking rapidly. "Marcus, look over here, honey," she called out. Marcus started crying and buried his face against Michael's shoulder. "Leave my son alone," Michael shouted. "Just doing my job," Rita called back, still taking pictures of the crying 3-year-old. Inside the daycare, the director, Mrs. Sandra Kim, pulled Michael aside. "Mr. Jordan, I need to talk to you," she said quietly. "Some parents are getting nervous about all the attention. They're worried about their own children's safety." Michael's heart sank. "Are you asking me to take Marcus out of daycare?" "Not yet. But if this continues—" Michael understood. The other parents didn't want their children caught up in the Jordan family's media nightmare. That afternoon, things got worse. Juanita needed to take baby Jasmine to the pediatrician for her 6-month checkup. She thought if she went out the back door and drove her own car instead of Michael's, maybe the reporters wouldn't notice. She was wrong. Tommy Chen had been watching the house all morning. When he saw Juanita's car pull out of the garage, he followed her. So did Rita Valdez and 3 other photographers. At the doctor's office, Juanita parked and grabbed Jasmine's car seat. The baby was wearing a pink dress and tiny white shoes. She looked like a little angel. As Juanita walked toward the medical building, the photographers surrounded her. "Juanita, how are you handling Michael's retirement? Is it true you're having marriage problems? Can we get a shot of the baby?" Jasmine started crying from all the noise and commotion. Juanita tried to shield her daughter with a blanket, but the photographers kept moving to get different angles. "Please," Juanita said, her voice shaking. "She's just a baby. She's sick." But they didn't stop. Rita Valdez got down on her knees, trying to photograph Jasmine's face under the blanket. "Beautiful baby," Rita called out. "Just one smile, sweetie." Juanita started crying too. She stood in the parking lot, holding her sick baby, surrounded by strangers with cameras, and she didn't know what to do. That's when Carmen Rodriguez appeared. Carmen was the Jordans' housekeeper. She had worked for the family for 2 years and loved the children like they were her own grandchildren. She had driven to the doctor's office when she realized where Juanita had gone. "Get away from that baby!" Carmen shouted in her thick Puerto Rican accent. She was only 5 feet tall, but she was fierce when she was angry. "Shame on you! Leave this family alone!" Carmen pushed through the crowd of photographers and put her arm around Juanita. "Come on, mija," she said gently. "Let's get the baby inside." The 2 women hurried into the medical building while the photographers waited outside. But the worst was yet to come. That evening, Michael came home to find Carmen going through the garbage cans behind their house. "Carmen, what are you doing?" "Looking for this," she said, holding up a dirty diaper and an empty baby food jar. "I found them going through our trash this morning, taking pictures of everything, even the baby's dirty diapers." Michael felt sick to his stomach. They were photographing his baby daughter's dirty diapers? Who was it? That skinny boy with the glasses. Tommy something. And the lady with all the cameras. That night, Michael called his lawyer, his agent, and the head of security for the Chicago Bulls. None of them had good news. "Michael, they're not breaking any laws," his lawyer explained. "As long as they stay on public property, they can take pictures and ask questions. What about my children? Don't they have any rights?" Unfortunately, as the children of a public figure, the law isn't clear about their privacy rights. Michael hung up the phone feeling helpless again. In basketball, there were always rules. Fouls were called. Bad behavior was punished. But in real life, it seemed like there were no rules at all. The next morning, Michael decided to try a different approach. He called a press conference. 20 reporters showed up at the United Center, where the Bulls played their home games. Michael sat at a table with microphones pointed at him, just like after every basketball game. But this wasn't about basketball. "I want to talk to you about my family," Michael began. 3 weeks ago, I retired from basketball to spend time with my wife and children. Since then, my family has been followed, photographed, and harassed every single day. The reporters scribbled in their notebooks and adjusted their cameras. My 4-year-old son is afraid to go to school. My 3-year-old won't stop crying. My baby daughter can't even go to the doctor without being surrounded by photographers. Michael looked directly into the cameras. "I'm asking you, as human beings, to please leave my family alone. You want to interview me? Fine, I'm here. But my children didn't choose this life. They're just kids who want to play in their backyard, without being photographed." Michael thought his words would matter. He thought the reporters would understand. He was wrong again. The next day, there were even more reporters outside his house. The press conference had only made them more interested. Now they knew the Jordan family was really bothered by the attention, which made the story even bigger. Tommy Chen wrote an article with the headline, "Jordan Family in Crisis. Are they hiding something?" Rita Valdez sold photos of crying Marcus to 3 different magazines. And that afternoon, when Juanita tried to take the children to the grocery store, 15 photographers followed them inside the store. Jeffrey hid behind the shopping cart. Marcus cried in the baby seat. Jasmine screamed from all the camera flashes. Other shoppers stared and pointed. Some took pictures with their own cameras. A few asked for autographs while Juanita was trying to calm her crying children. "Please," Juanita begged the store manager. "Can you make them stop?" "I'm sorry, ma'am. It's a public store. As long as they're not disturbing other customers." But they were disturbing other customers. They were disturbing everyone. The whole store had turned into a circus, and the Jordan children were the main attraction. That night, as Michael tucked Jeffrey into bed, his son asked the question that broke his father's heart. "Daddy, why do those people want to hurt our family?" "They don't want to hurt us, Jeffrey. They just want to take pictures and ask questions. But it feels like they want to hurt us." Michael sat on the edge of his son's bed in the dark room. Outside, he could see the glow of camera flashes through the curtains. "Jeffrey, I need you to know something. Daddy is going to fix this." "How?" "I don't know yet. But I promise you, I'm going to make it stop." Jeffrey was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Daddy, are you going to fight the camera people?" Michael thought about that question. Was he going to fight them? "Yes, son. I am." "Like in basketball?" "Sort of. But this is more important than basketball. Because we're your team?" Michael felt tears in his eyes. "That's exactly right, Jeffrey. You and Marcus and Jasmine and Mommy are my team. and I always protect my team. As Michael kissed his son goodnight, he heard a car door slam outside. Then another. The night shift of reporters was arriving. Downstairs, Juanita was feeding Jasmine a bottle. She looked exhausted. "How was your day?" Michael asked, though he could see the answer in her tired eyes. "Terrible. We couldn't go anywhere without being followed. The children are scared all the time." "And Michael?" She paused, looking down at baby Jasmine. "I think all this stress is affecting Jasmine. She's been fussy constantly. She won't sleep. Something's wrong." Michael looked at his baby daughter. Even at 6 months old, she seemed to sense the tension around her. Her little face was red and blotchy. She kept crying even while drinking her bottle. "Maybe we should take her to the doctor." "Again," Michael suggested, "and have another circus in the parking lot?" "I can't do that to her again, Michael. I can't put her through that stress." That's when Michael realized how bad things had really gotten. His wife was afraid to take their sick baby to the doctor because of the reporters. His children were prisoners in their own home. His family was falling apart, and it was all because he had decided to retire from basketball. No, that wasn't right. It was because some people thought they owned his family's private life. Well, they were about to learn something about Michael Jordan that his opponents on the basketball court already knew. When you came after his family, Michael Jordan didn't just get mad. He got even, and he never, ever lost when it really mattered. 2 days later, at 3 in the morning, baby Jasmine started screaming. It wasn't her normal crying. This was different, desperate, painful. Juanita shot up in bed and ran to the nursery. Michael was right behind her. "Oh my God!" Juanita gasped when she touched Jasmine's forehead. "Michael, she's burning up." Michael felt his daughter's skin. It was hot as fire. The baby's little face was bright red, and she was breathing fast. Her tiny body was shaking. "We need to get her to the hospital." "Now," Michael said. Juanita wrapped Jasmine in a blanket, while Michael threw on clothes. The baby kept screaming, a sound that made both parents' hearts race with fear. "What about Jeffrey and Marcus?" Juanita asked as she grabbed the diaper bag. "Carmen!" Michael called down the hallway. Their housekeeper lived in a small apartment above the garage. "Carmen, we need you!" Carmen appeared in her bathrobe within seconds. When she saw the crying baby, her face went pale. "Ay, Dios mío." "What happened?" "High fever. We're going to Chicago Children's Hospital. Can you stay with the boys?" "Of course. Go. Go now." Michael carried the car seat, while Juanita held Jasmine. As they rushed toward the garage, Michael's phone rang. Even at 3 in the morning, reporters were calling. "Don't answer it," Juanita said. But as they backed out of the driveway, Michael saw something that made his blood boil. 2 cars with tinted windows were parked across the street. Even in the middle of the night, they were being watched. One of the car doors opened. Tommy Chen stepped out with his camera. "Are you kidding me?" Michael muttered. "Michael, drive." "Just drive," Juanita said. Jasmine was still crying, and she was getting hotter. Michael sped through the empty Highland Park streets toward the highway. In his rearview mirror, he could see headlights following them. "They're following us to the hospital," he said. "I don't care. Just get there fast." The drive to Chicago Children's Hospital usually took 20 minutes. Michael made it in 12, running red lights and going 80 miles per hour on Lakeshore Drive. But when they pulled up to the emergency entrance, Michael's worst nightmare was waiting for them. Tommy Chen had called ahead. Rita Valdez was already there with her camera. So were 4 other photographers and 2 TV news crews. "How did they get here so fast?" Juanita asked. They have police scanners, Michael realized. They heard the ambulance calls, but there had been no ambulance. The reporters had just assumed. "Mr. Jordan, is the baby sick?" someone shouted as Michael parked. "What's wrong with Jasmine?" Another voice called out. Camera flashes started going off before Michael even got out of the car. "Juanita, cover her face," Michael said. Juanita pulled the blanket over Jasmine's head, but the baby was crying so hard she kept pushing the blanket away. Michael got out and opened Juanita's door. Immediately, they were surrounded. "Michael, is this serious? Juanita, how long has she been sick? Can we get a statement?" Rita Valdez pushed through the crowd, her camera clicking rapidly. She was trying to get photos of the crying baby. "Beautiful baby, even when she's sick," Rita called out. "Get away from my daughter," Michael shouted. But they didn't get away. They followed the family right up to the hospital entrance. Camera flashes kept going off in baby Jasmine's face, making her cry even harder. At the entrance, Michael tried to shield Juanita and the baby with his body, but Rita Valdez got down on her knees and crawled under his arm, trying to photograph Jasmine from below. "Please," Juanita cried out, tears streaming down her face. "She's sick. She needs a doctor." Just one shot of the family together. "Tommy," Chen called out, blocking their path to the door. Michael had never wanted to hit someone so badly in his life. His 6-month-old daughter was burning with fever, and these people were treating it like entertainment. "Move!" Michael roared. Finally, hospital security guards came running out. "Back up! Everyone back up!" the head guard shouted. But the damage was done. Juanita was sobbing. Jasmine was screaming. And Michael felt like he was going to explode with rage. Inside the emergency room, a young doctor named Dr. Sarah Martinez quickly examined Jasmine. "Her temperature is 104 degrees, Dr. Martinez said, looking worried. "That's very dangerous for a baby this young. We need to bring it down fast." They gave Jasmine medicine and put cool cloths on her head. Slowly, her crying stopped, and her breathing got easier. "What caused this?" Juanita asked. "It could be an ear infection, or maybe she's getting teeth." But Dr. Martinez paused. "Has the baby been under any unusual stress lately?" Michael and Juanita looked at each other. "Why do you ask?" Michael said. "High fevers in babies can sometimes be triggered by stress. Their little systems can't handle too much excitement or chaos." Outside in the hallway, they could hear voices and see camera flashes through the windows. The reporters hadn't left. They were camping out in the hospital parking lot. "Doctor," Juanita said quietly, "our family has been dealing with a lot of media attention lately." Dr. Martinez nodded. "I thought you looked familiar. You're Michael Jordan." "Yes, and these people have been following our children everywhere, even here." Dr. Martinez frowned. "That's terrible. This baby needs peace and quiet to recover. Stress is the last thing she needs right now." As if to prove the doctor's point, camera flashes went off outside the window. Jasmine started crying again. "Can we use a different exit?" Michael asked. "Of course, but Mr. Jordan..." Dr. Martinez looked serious. "If this stress continues, it could really hurt your baby's health. Babies need calm, safe environments." Michael felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. The reporters weren't just bothering his family anymore. They were making his baby sick. After 2 hours, Jasmine's fever finally came down. The doctor said she could go home, but she needed to rest and stay calm. "How are we supposed to get her home without those people following us?" Juanita asked. The head of hospital security, a large man named Frank Morrison, overheard. "Mr. Jordan, I used to work for the Secret Service," Frank said. "I can get your family out of here safely." Frank had the hospital maintenance crew bring a laundry truck to the back loading dock. Michael, Juanita, and baby Jasmine hid in the back while Frank drove them home, but even that didn't work completely. When they got back to Highland Park, there were twice as many reporters as before. Breaking news. Jordan baby rushed to hospital. Was already playing on the morning TV shows. Sources say the family is in crisis. Exclusive photos of the dramatic late-night emergency. Inside their house, Carmen was waiting with Jeffrey and Marcus. Both boys had been woken up by all the commotion. Outside. "Daddy, is Jasmine okay?" Jeffrey asked, still in his pajamas. "She's fine, buddy. She just had a fever." "Why are there so many cars outside?" Marcus asked. Michael looked out the window. The crowd had grown huge. There were news vans with satellite dishes, photographers with telephoto lenses, and curious neighbors who had come to watch the show. His front yard looked like a carnival. "Mommy's crying," Marcus said quietly. Michael turned around. Juanita was sitting on the couch, holding Jasmine, tears streaming down her face. "I can't do this anymore, Michael," she whispered. "I can't take our children anywhere. I can't even take our sick baby to the doctor without it turning into a circus." Jeffrey and Marcus climbed onto the couch next to their mother. "Don't cry, Mommy," Jeffrey said, patting her arm. "It's okay, Mommy," Marcus added. "Daddy will fix it." Michael looked at his family. His wife was crying. His baby daughter had been made sick by stress. His young sons were trying to comfort their mother because the adults couldn't protect them. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This wasn't just invasion of privacy. This was hurting his children. That afternoon, while Juanita napped with Jasmine, Michael made a phone call that would change everything. Jonathan Mitchell Law Offices. "This is Michael Jordan. I need to speak with Mr. Mitchell immediately." Jonathan Mitchell was the most expensive and most feared media lawyer in Chicago. He represented celebrities, politicians, and anyone who needed to fight back against the press. "Mr. Jordan, I've been expecting your call," Jonathan said when he got on the phone. "I've been watching the news coverage of your family. Can you help us?" "That depends. How far are you willing to go?" Michael looked out his window. Rita Valdez was taking pictures of Jeffrey's bedroom window. Tommy Chen was interviewing neighbors about the Jordan family's strange behavior. His baby daughter was sleeping in her mother's arms because she had been made sick by strangers with cameras. "As far as I need to go," Michael said. "Good. Because what they're doing to your family isn't just wrong. Some of it is illegal." "What do you mean?" "Taking pictures through your children's bedroom windows, going through your garbage, following your baby to medical appointments. That's harassment, invasion of privacy, and possibly stalking." Michael felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. "Can we stop them?" "Mr. Jordan, I don't just stop people, I destroy them." "What would that look like?" "Lawsuits, criminal charges, public humiliation. We make them so sorry they ever heard the name Jordan that other reporters will think twice before bothering any celebrity family again." Michael was quiet for a moment. He had always tried to handle problems quietly, without making big scenes. But quiet wasn't working. "Mr. Mitchell, I want you to understand something. This isn't about my reputation or my privacy. This is about my children. They made my baby sick. They made my 4-year-old afraid to go to school. I understand. So when I ask you to destroy them, I mean completely destroy them." Jonathan Mitchell smiled, though Michael couldn't see it through the phone. "Mr. Jordan, you came to the right lawyer." That night, as Michael tucked Jeffrey and Marcus into bed, Jeffrey asked his usual question. "Daddy, did you fix it yet?" "Not yet, buddy. But I'm going to." "When?" Michael looked out Jeffrey's bedroom window. He could see Tommy Chen sitting in his car, eating a sandwich and waiting for something interesting to happen. Soon, Jeffrey. Very soon. After the boys were asleep, Michael sat in his bedroom with Juanita. Baby Jasmine was finally sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. "What did the lawyer say?" Juanita asked. "He said we can fight back. Really fight back." "How?" Michael took his wife's hand. "I'm going to do something that's going to shock everyone. The reporters, the media, maybe even you." "What?" "I'm going to show them what happens when you mess with Michael Jordan's family." Juanita looked at her husband. She had been married to him for 4 years. She had seen him win championships, score impossible shots, and never back down from any challenge, but she had never seen this look in his eyes before. "Michael, what are you planning?" He squeezed her hand. "I'm planning to win." Outside their bedroom window, a camera flash went off. Someone was still taking pictures of their house. At midnight, Michael smiled grimly. Let them take all the pictures they wanted. They had no idea what was coming. The next morning, Michael Jordan did something that surprised everyone. He disappeared. Not physically. He was still in his house with his family. But suddenly, Michael Jordan became the quietest man in America. No phone calls to reporters. No statements. No angry outbursts when photographers jumped out from behind trees. For 3 days, Michael said absolutely nothing to the media. He just smiled and waved politely. When they shouted questions at him, the reporters didn't know what to think. "Maybe he's given up," Tommy Chen said to Rita Valdez as they sat in Tommy's car outside the Jordan house. "Or maybe he's planning something," Rita replied, adjusting her telephoto lens. "Rich people like him don't just give up." But Tommy wasn't. Worried. He had a job to do, and he was going to do it. His editor at the Chicago Tribune was pressuring him to get more exclusive stories about the Jordan family. "Find something new," his editor had said. "Something nobody else has. Make yourself famous, Tommy." Tommy wanted to be famous more than anything. He was 24 years old and had been working at the Tribune for only 6 months. Most of his stories ended up buried on page 12. But the Jordan retirement story was front-page news every day. If he could just get one really big scoop about Michael Jordan, Tommy knew his career would take off. What Tommy didn't know was that Michael Jordan was watching him. Not just Michael. Professional investigators, Rebecca Santos was sitting in a van 2 blocks away, taking pictures of Tommy Chen, taking pictures of the Jordan house. Rebecca was a private investigator who specialized in media harassment cases. She had worked for movie stars, politicians, and wealthy business people who needed protection from aggressive reporters. Michael had hired her the same day he called Jonathan Mitchell. "I want you to document everything," Michael had told her. "Every time they take a picture, I want you to take a picture of them taking a picture." "What's the plan?" Rebecca had asked. "To show the world exactly what these people are really doing to my family." Rebecca had been watching the Jordan house. For 3 days now, she had photographed Tommy Chen hiding in bushes. She had filmed Rita Valdez going through the family's garbage cans. She had recorded reporters following the children to school. But Michael wanted more than just evidence. He wanted to understand exactly who he was fighting. That's why he hired Frank Morrison. Frank was the former Secret Service agent who had helped them escape from the hospital. After 20 years of protecting presidents and their families, Frank knew everything about security, investigations, and dealing with dangerous people. "Are these reporters dangerous?" Michael had asked. "Anyone who harasses children is dangerous," Frank had replied. "Let me find out who we're really dealing with." Frank's investigation of Tommy Chen was shocking. Tommy had been fired from his last job at a small newspaper in Ohio for making up quotes. He had been caught taking pictures through apartment windows. He had even been arrested once for trespassing, though the charges were dropped. "This guy isn't a real journalist," Frank told Michael. "He's just a creep with a press badge." Rita Valdez was worse. She had been sued 3 times for invasion of privacy. She had been banned from 2 different schools for photographing children without permission. She had even spent a night in jail for refusing to stop following a politician's family. "These aren't professional reporters covering a news story," Frank explained. "These are stalkers who found a legal way to make money." But the most shocking discovery came from Jonathan Mitchell's legal team. "Michael, you need to see this," Jonathan said during a secret meeting at his downtown Chicago law office. Jonathan's office was on the 40th floor of a glass skyscraper. From his conference room, you could see all of Lake Michigan. But Michael wasn't looking at the view. He was looking at a folder full of documents. "What am I looking at?" Michael asked. "Phone records, email messages, financial documents. We found something very interesting about the media coverage of your family." Jonathan spread the papers across the conference table. "This isn't random harassment, Michael. It's organized." "What do you mean?" "Look at this." Jonathan pointed to a phone bill. "Tommy Chen called Rita Valdez 17 times last week. Then Rita called 3 different magazine editors. Then those editors called 2 TV stations." Michael studied the papers. "They're working together? It's bigger than that. Look at this email." Jonathan handed Michael a printed email from Tommy. "Chen to his editor at the Tribune. The Jordan story is getting stale. We need to push harder. If we can get the family to crack publicly, this story could run for months. Suggest coordinating with Valdez and the TV crews for maximum pressure." Michael's hands tightened on the paper. "They're trying to make my family crack?" Keep reading. The next email was from Rita Valdez to Celebrity Sports Weekly. "Jordan kids are getting scared. If we push a little harder, we might get some really dramatic shots. Crying children always sell magazines." Michael felt sick to his stomach. They weren't just taking pictures. They were deliberately trying to traumatize his children because crying kids made better photographs. "There's more," Jonathan said quietly. He handed Michael another document. This one was a financial agreement between 3 different media outlets. "They're sharing the costs of following your family. Split 3 ways. They can afford to have someone watching your house 24 hours a day." Is this legal? Technically, yes, but it proves this isn't journalism. It's organized harassment for profit. Michael was quiet for a long time, reading through all the documents. Finally, he looked up. "What can we do with this?" Jonathan Mitchell smiled. It was not a nice smile. "We can destroy them." "How?" "Civil lawsuits for invasion of privacy, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Criminal charges for stalking and trespassing. And something even better." "What?" "We leak these documents to every major newspaper in the country. We show the world that the people harassing your family aren't journalists. They're professional stalkers who coordinate their attacks on children." Michael thought about Jeffrey asking why the camera people wanted to hurt their family. "When do we start?" "We've already started. Frank has been documenting their illegal activities. Rebecca has been filming their harassment. My legal team has been building cases against 12 different people and 6 media companies." 12 people? Oh, yes. This goes much deeper than just Tommy Chen and Rita Valdez. Jonathan pulled out another folder, even thicker than the first one. Local news stations, national magazines, freelance photographers, even some of your neighbors who have been selling information about your family's daily routines. Michael was shocked. "My neighbors?" Mrs. Henderson from 2 houses down has been calling reporters every time you leave the house. She's making $50 per tip. $50 to tell strangers when my children go outside? The media is paying people to spy on your family, Michael. This is much bigger than you thought. Michael stood up and walked to the window. From 40 floors up, Chicago looked peaceful and orderly. But down on the ground, his family was under siege. Jonathan, I want you to understand something. I don't just want to stop this. I want to make sure it never happens to another family. That's exactly what we're going to do. How long will this take? If we file everything at once, we can have them in court within 2 weeks. Michael turned back from the window. No. No? I don't want them in court in 2 weeks. I want them to think they're winning. I want them to get more aggressive. I want them to hang themselves. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. That's risky. They might hurt your family more in the meantime. They're already hurting my family. But if we move too fast, they'll just claim they were doing their jobs. I want evidence so clear, so obvious, that no judge or jury could ever side with them. You want to let them make it worse? Michael nodded. I want them to cross every line they can think of, and I want cameras rolling when they do it. It was a dangerous plan, but Michael Jordan had always been willing to take risks when the stakes were high enough, and nothing had ever been more important than protecting his children. Over the next week, Michael played his part perfectly. To the outside world, he looked defeated. He stopped making public statements. He avoided eye contact with reporters. He seemed to be retreating deeper into his house. The media thought they were winning. Tommy Chen got bolder. He started following Jeffrey to school every single day, calling out questions to the 4-year-old. Rita Valdez started climbing trees near the Jordan house to get better camera angles into their backyard. Other reporters began offering money to anyone who could get them information about the family's private conversations. They had no idea that every single thing they did was being recorded by hidden cameras. Frank Morrison had installed a complete surveillance system around the Jordan property. Cameras in trees, microphones in bushes, recording equipment in fake delivery trucks. We're getting everything, Frank reported to Michael. Every illegal act, every invasion of privacy, every moment of harassment. How much more do we need? Jonathan says we're almost ready. But there's one more thing he wants to wait for. What? Something so outrageous that it will make national news. Something that will turn the entire country against these people. Michael was nervous about waiting longer. Every day meant more stress for his family. Jasmine was still getting sick frequently. Jeffrey was having nightmares. Marcus had stopped talking to anyone except family members, but Michael trusted his legal team. They knew what they were doing. What none of them knew was that Tommy Chen was planning something that would give them exactly what they needed. Tommy had been thinking about his editor's words, "Make yourself famous." He had decided that just taking pictures and asking questions wasn't enough. He needed to do something that no other reporter had done. He needed to get inside the Jordan house. That Friday afternoon, while Michael was at a meeting with his lawyers, Tommy Chen made a decision that would destroy his career and change his life forever. He was going to find a way to get photographs of the Jordan family inside their own home. Tommy didn't know that Rebecca Santos was watching him plan it. He didn't know that Frank Morrison had cameras everywhere, and he definitely didn't know that Michael Jordan was waiting for exactly this kind of mistake. The trap was set. All they had to do now was wait for Tommy Chen to walk into it. Tommy Chen didn't have to wait long to make his biggest mistake. It happened on a rainy Tuesday morning in November. Michael had taken Jeffrey to school, and Juanita was inside with baby Jasmine. Marcus was at daycare. The Itau house was quiet. Tommy thought this was his perfect chance. What he didn't know was that Rebecca Santos was watching him from her van. Frank Morrison was monitoring him through hidden cameras, and Michael Jordan was sitting in Jonathan Mitchell's law office, watching Tommy on a live video feed. "Here he goes," Frank said into his radio. On the screen, Michael watched Tommy Chen get out of his car and look around nervously. Tommy had a small camera and what looked like lock-picking tools. "Is he really going to try to break into my house?" Michael asked. "Looks like it," Jonathan replied. "This is perfect. Breaking and entering is a felony." Tommy walked around the HCF Jordan house looking for an easy way in. He tried the back door. Locked. He tried the windows. All locked. Then he noticed something. The basement window on the side of the house was slightly open. Tommy looked around one more time to make sure no one was watching. Then he got down on his hands and knees and crawled toward the window. "Got him," Frank said. The basement window was small, but Tommy was skinny. He squeezed through the opening and dropped into the Jordan family's basement. He was now inside their home without permission. "That's breaking and entering," Jonathan said. "We can have him arrested right now." "Not yet," Michael said. "Let's see how far he'll go." Tommy crept up the basement stairs with his camera ready. The house was quiet, except for the sound of baby Jasmine laughing somewhere upstairs. He was inside Michael Jordan's private home, and he was about to take pictures that no reporter had ever gotten before. Tommy tiptoed into the living room. There were family photos everywhere. Pictures of Michael playing with his children. Photos of family vacations. Private moments that were never meant for the public. Tommy started taking pictures of everything. Family photos. Personal letters on the kitchen counter. Even a drawing that Jeffrey had made for his father with "I love you, Daddy," written in crayon. Upstairs, Jasmine started crying. Tommy heard Juanita's footsteps moving around in the nursery above him. His heart was beating fast, but he kept taking pictures. This was it. This was the story that would make him famous. What Tommy didn't know was that every step he took was being recorded by Frank Morrison's hidden cameras. "We're getting everything," Frank whispered into his radio. In Jonathan's office, Michael watched Tommy Chen violate his family's privacy in the worst possible way. "Look at him," Michael said quietly. "He's taking pictures of my children's drawings." "This is criminal trespassing, breaking and entering, invasion of privacy, and burglary," Jonathan said. "He's going to prison." But Tommy wasn't done yet. He heard Juanita coming downstairs with baby Jasmine. Instead of running away, Tommy hid behind the couch in the living room. He was going to try to photograph Juanita and the baby inside their own home. Juanita walked into the living room, bouncing Jasmine on her hip. She was singing softly to calm the baby down. She was wearing a bathrobe and slippers. Her hair was messy. She looked like any mother trying to comfort her child. Tommy raised his camera. But just as he was about to take the picture, something stopped him. Jasmine saw him. The 6-month-old baby looked right at Tommy Chen hiding behind her family's couch. Her big brown eyes went wide with fear. Then she started screaming. Not crying. Screaming. Juanita spun around. "Who's there?" Tommy, panicked. He jumped up from behind the couch and ran toward the basement stairs. "Stop!" Juanita shouted. "Someone's in the house!" But Tommy was already running. He crashed down the basement stairs, scraped through the window, and ran to his car as fast as he could. Behind him, he could hear Juanita calling 911. There's been a break-in. Someone was in my house taking pictures. Tommy drove away, his hands shaking on the steering wheel. But he was smiling. He had done it. He had gotten inside Michael Jordan's house. He had pictures that no one else in the world had. Tommy thought he had just made his career. He had actually just destroyed his life. 2 hours later, Michael Jordan walked into the Highland Park police station with Jonathan Mitchell, Frank Morrison, and a folder full of evidence. "We want to file criminal charges," Michael told Detective Maria Rodriguez. Detective Rodriguez was a 20-year veteran of the police force. She had never seen a case like this. "Mr. Jordan, let me make sure I understand. This reporter broke into your house while your wife and baby were inside?" "Yes, and we have video evidence of everything." Frank Morrison set up a laptop and showed Detective Rodriguez the footage. Clear video of Tommy Chen breaking into the house. Audio of him walking around inside. Pictures of him hiding behind furniture, waiting to photograph a mother and baby. "This is unbelievable," Detective Rodriguez said. "How long has this harassment been going on?" 6 weeks, Michael replied. "But it's not just one person. It's organized." Jonathan Mitchell opened his folder of evidence, phone records showing coordination between reporters, financial documents proving they were being paid to harass the family, email messages talking about making the children cry for better photographs. "Detective, we're not just talking about one break-in," Jonathan said. "We're talking about a criminal conspiracy to stalk and harass a family with young children." Detective Rodriguez studied the evidence for a long time. "Mr. Jordan, this is enough to arrest a dozen people. When do you want us to move?" Michael thought about his children. Jeffrey was still afraid to go to school. Marcus had stopped talking to strangers. Jasmine got sick every time there was too much stress. "Right now," Michael said. That afternoon, police cars surrounded the Highland Park neighborhood, where the Jordan family lived. Tommy Chen was arrested at his apartment. Police found hundreds of photos of the Jordan family on his computer. Pictures taken through windows, photos of the children at school, even images of baby Jasmine's bedroom. Rita Valdez was arrested while sitting in her car outside Jeffrey's preschool. She had been there for 3 hours, waiting to photograph the 4-year-old. 5 other photographers were arrested for trespassing, stalking, and harassment. But the biggest shock came when police arrested Mrs. Henderson, the Jordan family's neighbor. Mrs. Henderson was 73 years old. She looked like someone's sweet grandmother. But she had been spying on the Jordan family for 6 weeks, reporting their every move to reporters for money. "Mrs. Henderson called Tommy Chen every time your children went outside to play," Detective Rodriguez explained to Michael. "She's been making almost $300 a week selling information about your family." Michael felt sick. His children's own neighbor had been betraying them for money. By 6 o'clock that evening, the story was on every news channel in America. Breaking news. Reporters arrested for breaking into Michael Jordan's home. Criminal charges filed in Jordan. Family harassment case. Video evidence shows organized media stalking campaign. But the story that really shocked the country came when Jonathan Mitchell released the documents showing how the harassment had been planned and coordinated. The emails talking about making children cry for better photos. The financial agreements between media outlets to share stalking costs. The phone records proving reporters had been working together to traumatize a family. Suddenly, public opinion changed completely. People who had been enjoying the Jordan family drama now saw it for what it really was: organized cruelty toward children. Tommy Chen's editor at the Chicago Tribune held a press conference. "We had no idea that Mr. Chen was engaging in illegal activities," the editor said. "The Tribune does not support breaking and entering or any form of harassment." But Jonathan Mitchell had emails proving the editor had encouraged Tommy to push harder and get more dramatic shots. Celebrity Sports Weekly fired Rita Valdez and claimed they never told her to stalk children. But there were text messages showing they had offered her bonus payments for exclusive family crisis photos. Every media outlet involved tried to blame their reporters and photographers. But Michael Jordan's legal team had evidence showing the harassment had been planned at the highest levels. "This isn't about a few bad reporters," Jonathan Mitchell told the press. "This is about an entire industry that thinks celebrity children are fair game for profit." That night, Michael sat in his living room with his family for the first time in 6 weeks, without worrying about cameras outside their windows. Jeffrey was playing with toy cars on the carpet. Marcus was reading a picture book. Baby Jasmine was sleeping peacefully in her mother's arms. "Is it over?" Juanita asked. "The arrests are just the beginning," Michael said. "Tomorrow, we file the civil lawsuits." How many lawsuits? 12 different reporters and photographers, 6 media companies, 3 news stations, and one 73-year-old neighbor who sold out my children for $50 a week. Juanita looked shocked. "You're suing Mrs. Henderson? She put my children in danger for money. She's lucky I'm only suing her." The phone rang. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't a reporter. It was Michael's mother. "Michael, I just saw the news. Are you and the children okay?" "We're fine, Mom. Better than fine. We're fighting back." "Good. Those people had no right to hurt those babies." After Michael hung up, Jeffrey looked up from his toy cars. "Daddy, are the camera people going to come back?" "No, buddy. They're not coming back." "How do you know?" Michael smiled at his son. "Because Daddy won a big game today." "What kind of game?" "The most important game I've ever played." But Michael knew the game wasn't over yet. The arrests were just the first quarter. Tomorrow, the real battle would begin. Tomorrow, Michael Jordan would do something that would change the way the media treated celebrity families forever. Tomorrow, he would show the world what happened when you messed with his children. And when Michael Jordan decided to win, he didn't just win, he dominated. The phone calls started at 6 in the morning. Magic Johnson was the first. "Michael, I just saw the news," Magic said. "Man, I'm so sorry your family went through that." "Thanks, Magic." "Listen, what those reporters did to your kids, that's not right. If you need anything at all, you call me." Magic Johnson was one of the most famous basketball players in the world. He and Michael had been rivals on the court, but they respected each other as fathers and family men. "Actually, Magic, there is something you can do." "Name it." "Tell people what really happened. Help them understand this wasn't about basketball or retirement. This was about protecting children. Consider it done." An hour later, Charles Barkley called. "Michael, I'm going on TV tonight," Charles said. "I'm going to tell everyone exactly what I think about reporters who stalk babies." Charles Barkley was famous for saying exactly what he thought, whether people liked it or not. "What are you going to say?" Michael asked. "I'm going to say that any reporter who takes pictures of a 6-month-old baby through her bedroom window is a sick person who belongs in jail." "Charles, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. We're all famous. We all have kids. If we don't stick together on this, it could happen to any of our families." By noon, Michael's phone was ringing constantly. But for the first time in weeks, these were calls he wanted to receive. Larry Bird called from Boston. "Michael, what they did to your family was disgusting. You did the right thing fighting back." Scottie Pippen, Michael's teammate on the Bulls, called from Chicago. "MJ, The whole team is behind you. We've got your back. Even David Stern, the commissioner of the NBA, called. Michael, the league supports you completely, David said. What happened to your family was unacceptable. We're going to make sure this never happens to another NBA family. What does that mean? Michael asked. New rules, new policies. The NBA is going to take a strong stand on media harassment of players' families. Michael felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. He wasn't fighting this battle alone anymore, but not everyone was on his side. That afternoon, Tommy Chen's lawyer held a press conference. My client is a legitimate journalist who was investigating a story of public interest, the lawyer said. Mr. Chen never intended to harm the Jordan family. Standing next to Tommy's lawyer was Rita Valdez and her attorney. Ms. Valdez is a professional photographer who was simply doing her job, Rita's lawyer claimed. Taking photographs of public figures is protected by the First Amendment. Michael watched the press conference from Jonathan Mitchell's office. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. They're calling, breaking into my house, investigating a story? Michael asked. That's their strategy, Jonathan explained. They're going to claim they were just doing journalism. What about the emails? The coordination? The payments to my neighbor? They'll say that's just how the news business works. Michael shook his head. How can they defend photographing my baby through her bedroom window? Because they're desperate. Tommy Chen is facing 5 years in prison. Rita Valdez could lose her photography license. They'll say anything to avoid responsibility. But Jonathan wasn't worried. Michael, let them make these arguments. Every word they say is just digging them deeper. Jonathan was right. The more Tommy Chen and Rita Valdez tried to defend their actions, the angrier the public became. When Tommy's lawyer said that children of public figures have no expectation of privacy, parents across America were outraged. When Rita's lawyer claimed that taking photographs through windows is standard journalism practice, newspaper editors rushed to distance themselves from her. The Chicago Tribune held an emergency meeting. We need to fire Tommy Chen immediately, the editor-in-chief said, and we need to apologize to the Jordan family. But if we fire him, it looks like we admit he was wrong, the managing editor replied. He broke into someone's house. Of course, he was wrong. Celebrity Sports Weekly had the same problem. They wanted to fire Rita Valdez, but they were afraid it would make them look guilty. We have contracts with hundreds of photographers, the magazine's lawyer explained. If we fire Rita for aggressive journalism, other photographers might sue us. But she climbed trees to photograph a baby, the editor protested. That's technically not illegal. Meanwhile, Michael's legal team was working around the clock. Rebecca Santos had compiled over 300 hours of video evidence showing reporters harassing the Jordan family. Frank Morrison had identified 12 different people who had committed crimes while stalking the family. Jonathan Mitchell had prepared lawsuits against 17 different individuals and companies. We're not just going after the reporters, Jonathan explained to Michael. We're going after their editors, their companies, and anyone who paid them to harass your family. How much money are we talking about? $50 million in damages, maybe more. Michael was quiet for a moment. $50 million was a lot of money, even for him. I don't care about the money, he finally said. I want them to hurt so badly that other reporters will think twice before bothering any family. That's exactly what's going to happen. But the biggest surprise came from an unexpected source. Fan mail. Thousands of letters started arriving at the Jordan house, not from basketball fans, but from parents. Dear Mr. Jordan, one letter read, Thank you for protecting your children. My son is the same age as Jeffrey, and I can't imagine how scared he must have been. Dear Michael and Juanita, another letter said, we saw the news about the reporters breaking into your house. We're so sorry your family went through that. Our whole family is praying for you. The letters came from all over the country. Parents in California, grandparents in Texas, teachers in New York. Look at this one, Juanita said, reading a letter from a woman in Ohio. Dear Jordan family, I'm a kindergarten teacher, and I've seen how scary strangers can be for little children. What those reporters did to Jeffrey and Marcus was cruel. I hope they go to jail for a long time. Michael realized something important. This wasn't just about his family anymore. Parents everywhere were imagining how they would feel if strangers with cameras were stalking their children. The story was becoming bigger than basketball. Bigger than celebrity news, it was becoming a story about protecting all children from adult predators. That evening, Michael got a call that changed everything. Mr. Jordan, this is Senator Patricia Williams from Illinois. Senator Williams was the chairwoman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. She was also the mother of 3 young children. Senator, what can I do for you? It's what I can do for you, Mr. Jordan. I've been following your family's situation, and I think it's time for Congress to take action. What kind of action? New laws. Federal laws that protect children of public figures from harassment and stalking. Michael couldn't believe what he was hearing. You want to change federal law because of what happened to my family? Mr. Jordan, what happened to your children could happen to any child whose parent is famous. Movie stars' kids, politicians, children, even kids whose parents become famous by accident. Senator Williams was right. There were hundreds of celebrity families in America, and most of them had young children. What would these laws do? Michael asked. Make it a federal crime to stalk or harass children under 16, regardless of who their parents are. Make it illegal to publish photographs of minors without parental consent. Create real penalties for media companies that encourage this behavior. Michael felt hope growing in his chest. Senator, what do you need from me? Testify before Congress. Tell your story. Help us pass laws that will protect every family in America. After Michael hung up, he sat quietly in his study. Through the Itui window, he could see Jeffrey and Marcus playing in their backyard. For the first time in weeks, they were laughing and running around like normal children. No reporters, no cameras, no strangers hiding in bushes. Juanita came into the study carrying baby Jasmine. Who was that on the phone? She asked. A U.S. Senator. She wants me to testify before Congress. About what? About changing the laws to protect children like ours. Juanita sat down next to her husband. Michael, when this all started, I just wanted it to stop. I wanted our children to be safe. They are safe now. But what about other children? Other families who might go through this someday? Michael looked at his wife. She was thinking the same thing he was thinking. You think I should testify? I think you should do whatever will protect the most children. That night, Michael made his decision. He wasn't just going to win his legal battle against the reporters who had harassed his family. He was going to change the entire system. He was going to make sure that what happened to Jeffrey, Marcus, and Jasmine never happened to any child again. Michael Jordan had always been a competitor. But this was about something more important than winning. This was about using his fame and power to protect innocent children everywhere. And when Michael Jordan decided to protect something, he didn't just protect it. He built a shield around it that would last forever. 2 weeks later, Michael Jordan walked into the United States Capitol building in Washington, D.C. He was wearing a dark blue suit and carrying a folder full of photographs, pictures of his children hiding from cameras, video clips of reporters climbing trees outside his house, evidence that would shock the world. The Senate Judiciary Committee hearing room was packed. Senators sat behind a long wooden table. Reporters filled every seat in the gallery. Television cameras from every major network pointed at the witness table where Michael would sit. But this time, the cameras were there to help him, not hurt him. "The committee will come to order," said Senator Patricia Williams, the chairwoman. "Today we are here to discuss the Protection of Minor Children Act, proposed legislation that would create new federal protections for children of public figures." Senator Williams looked directly at Michael. "Our first witness is Mr. Michael Jordan, former professional basketball player, whose family was the victim of an organized harassment campaign that shocked the nation." Michael sat down at the witness table. The microphone in front of him was the same kind he had used for thousands of basketball interviews. But this was the most important thing he would ever say. "Mr. Jordan," Senator Williams began, "please tell this committee what happened to your family." Michael took a deep breath and began. "Senators, 6 weeks ago, I retired from basketball to spend time with my wife and 3 young children. Within hours, reporters began following my family everywhere we went." Michael opened his folder and pulled out a photograph. "This is my 4-year-old son, Jeffrey, on his first day back to preschool. As you can see, he's crying because a reporter with a camera jumped out from behind a car and started shouting questions at him." The senators passed the photograph around the table. Several of them shook their heads in disgust. "This is my 3-year-old son Marcus at his daycare center. A photographer was hiding behind a garbage dumpster to take this picture." More photographs. More shocked faces among the senators. "And this is my 6-month-old daughter Jasmine at the hospital emergency room. She had a high fever, possibly caused by the stress of constant harassment. These reporters followed our ambulance and surrounded us as we tried to get medical care for our sick baby." Senator Williams studied the hospital photograph. "Mr. Jordan, you're saying these reporters followed a sick infant to the hospital?" "Yes, ma'am. They blocked our path to the emergency room entrance. They took flash photographs of my crying baby while she was having a medical emergency." "What did the hospital staff say about this?" "The doctor told us that babies can develop serious fevers from stress. She said the constant chaos around our family could be making our daughter physically sick." A murmur went through the hearing room. Parents in the gallery were horrified. Michael continued his testimony for an hour, showing evidence of everything that had happened to his family. Tommy Chen breaking into their house. Rita Valdez climbing trees to photograph them through windows. Their elderly neighbor spying on the children for money. Reporters going through their garbage. Photographers hiding in bushes at the children's schools. "Mr. Jordan," asked Senator Robert Hayes from Texas, "how did your children react to this harassment?" "My 4-year-old became afraid to leave the house. My 3-year-old stopped talking to anyone outside our family. And my baby daughter was getting sick from the stress." "What did you do about it?" "At first, I tried asking the reporters to leave us alone. I held a press conference asking them to respect my children's privacy. Did that work?" "No, sir. It made things worse. They saw that we were upset, so they pushed even harder." Senator Williams leaned forward. "Mr. Jordan, what finally made you decide to take legal action?" "When I realized they were deliberately trying to traumatize my children because crying kids made better photographs." Michael pulled out copies of the emails that Jonathan Mitchell had discovered. These are messages between the reporters and their editors. In one email, a photographer says, "Jordan kids are getting scared. If we push a little harder, we might get some really dramatic shots. Crying children always sell magazines." The hearing room went completely silent. They were trying to make your children cry? Senator Williams asked. Yes, ma'am. On purpose. For profit. Senator Hayes looked furious. Mr. Jordan, are you telling this committee that news organizations were paying people to terrorize your children so they could sell more magazines? That's exactly what I'm telling you. Michael showed the committee the financial agreements between media outlets, the payment records to his neighbor, the phone logs proving coordination between reporters. This wasn't random harassment by individual reporters, Michael explained. This was an organized campaign by multiple news organizations to stalk my family for profit. Senator Williams called for a 10-minute break. During the break, Michael could hear senators talking angrily among themselves. This is criminal behavior. How is this legal? Those people should be in prison. When the hearing resumed, Senator Williams asked the question everyone was thinking. Mr. Jordan, what do you want this committee to do? I want you to make sure this never happens to another family. How? Michael had been thinking about this answer for weeks. First, make it a federal crime to stalk or harass any child under 16, regardless of who their parents are. What else? Make it illegal to publish photographs of minors without written permission from their parents. Anything else? Create real criminal penalties for media companies that encourage harassment of children, not just fines. Prison time for executives who profit from hurting kids. Senator Hayes asked, Mr. Jordan, some people might say that children of famous people give up their right to privacy. What's your response to that? Michael thought about Jeffrey, asking why the camera people wanted to hurt their family. Senator, my children didn't choose to be famous. They're just kids who want to play in their backyard without strangers taking pictures of them. But their father is one of the most famous athletes in the world. That's my choice, not theirs. Children shouldn't be punished because their parents are well known. The hearing lasted 4 hours. When it was over, Senator Williams made an announcement that shocked everyone. Based on Mr. Jordan's testimony and the evidence presented today, this committee will draft emergency legislation to protect children of public figures. We will call it the Jordan Family Protection Act. Michael felt tears in his eyes. They were going to name a federal law after his family, but the biggest surprise was still coming. That evening, Michael flew back to Chicago. When he arrived at his house in Highland Park, there was a crowd waiting for him. But this time, it wasn't reporters. It was neighbors, parents from Jeffrey's school, other families from their community. They were holding signs that said, "Protect our children," and "Thank you, Michael." Mrs. Patricia Wells, Jeffrey's preschool teacher, stepped forward. Mr. Jordan, we wanted you to know that what you did today in Washington will help protect children everywhere. Not just famous children, added another parent. All children. Michael realized something important. The law they were creating wouldn't just protect celebrity kids, it would protect any child who became the target of aggressive media attention. Kids whose parents became famous by accident. Children who witnessed crimes and became news stories. Any young person who found themselves in the public eye. But there was one more surprise waiting for Michael inside his house. Jonathan Mitchell was sitting in the living room with a huge smile on his face. Michael, you need to hear this, Jonathan said. What? Tommy Chen just pled guilty to all charges, 5 years in prison. And Rita Valdez? Lost her photography license and agreed to pay $2 million in damages. What about the media companies? They're all settling out of court. They don't want a public trial where we present all the evidence. Michael felt a sense of justice, but Jonathan wasn't finished. Michael, there's something else. Something bigger. What? Jonathan pulled out a stack of legal documents. 17 other celebrity families have contacted us. They want to file similar lawsuits against media companies that have harassed their children. Michael looked at the names on the list. Movie stars, musicians, politicians, athletes. They all want to use our legal strategy. They all want you to lead a class action lawsuit that will change the entire media industry. Michael sat down next to his wife. Juanita was holding baby Jasmine, who was smiling and laughing. In the next room, Jeffrey and Marcus were playing with their toys, safe and happy. What would that mean? Juanita asked. It means we don't just protect our family, Michael replied. We protect every family. That night, as Michael tucked his children into bed, Jeffrey asked his usual question. Daddy, did you win the big game today? Yes, buddy. We won. What did we win? Michael thought about federal laws that would protect children, about reporters going to prison for stalking kids, about a legal system that would finally put children's safety ahead of media profits. We won something that will keep you and Marcus and Jasmine safe forever. What about other kids? Them too, Jeffrey. All the kids. Jeffrey smiled and closed his eyes. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet and peaceful. No reporters. No cameras. No strangers watching their house. Michael Jordan had done something no basketball game could ever accomplish. He had changed the world for every child in America. And this was just the beginning. 6 months later, Michael Jordan stood in the rose garden of the White House. President Bill Clinton was about to sign the Jordan Family Protection Act into federal law. It was a sunny spring day in 1994, and Michael was surrounded by his wife, his 3 children, and dozens of other families who had fought for this moment. Today, President Clinton said to the crowd, we take a stand for every child in America. We say that being famous does not make your children fair game for harassment. We say that making money does not give anyone the right to terrorize innocent kids. Michael held Jeffrey's hand while Juanita carried baby Jasmine. Marcus was sitting on Michael's shoulders, waving at the cameras that were respectfully keeping their distance. These cameras were different. They were invited. They were documenting history, not invading privacy. The Jordan Family Protection Act creates the strongest protections for children that our nation has ever seen, the president continued. It makes stalking any child under 16 a federal crime. It prohibits publishing photos of minors without parental consent. And it holds media companies criminally responsible when they encourage harassment of children. President Clinton picked up his pen. With great pride, I sign this bill into law. As the president signed the law, Michael felt something he had never felt before. Not pride from winning a basketball game. Not satisfaction from scoring points. This was the feeling of knowing he had used his fame to protect millions of children he would never meet. After the ceremony, Michael walked with his family through the White House gardens. For the first time in almost a year, photographers were taking pictures of his children with permission. Daddy, Jeffrey said, are we really safe now? Yes, buddy. You're safe. And so are all the other kids in America. Forever? Forever. But Michael knew the real victory wasn't just the law. It was what had happened to his family during their fight. That evening, back home in Highland Park, Michael sat in his backyard watching his children play. They were laughing and running around like normal kids. No fear, no worry about strangers with cameras. Jonathan Mitchell joined him on the patio. Michael, I wanted to show you something, Jonathan said, handing him a folder. What's this? Letters from families across the country. People thanking you for what you've done. Michael opened the folder and read the first letter. Dear Mr. Jordan, My daughter is 8 years old. Last month, she was in a car accident that made the local news. Reporters started following her to school and taking pictures of her while she was still recovering. Because of your new law, we were able to stop them immediately. Thank you for protecting my little girl. Michael read another letter. Dear Jordan family, I'm a teacher in California. One of my students' fathers became famous when he won the lottery. Reporters were bothering this little boy every day at school. The Jordan Family Protection Act helped us get a restraining order against the media. Thank you for giving children the right to be children. There were hundreds of letters. Parents of children who had been in accidents, kids whose families had won money, children who had witnessed crimes and become news stories. All of them were now protected by the law that carried Michael's family name. Jonathan, how many families has this law helped? Michael asked. In 6 months? Over 3,000 cases. Children who were being stalked by reporters, families who were being harassed for being in the news, kids who just wanted to go to school, without cameras following them. Michael felt proud, but Jonathan had more to tell him. Michael, there's something else, something bigger. What? Other countries are copying our law. Canada just passed their version of the Jordan Family Protection Act. So did England and Australia. Michael couldn't believe it. You mean children in other countries are protected too? Because of what you started, yes. Millions of children around the world now have legal protection from media harassment. That night, as Michael and Juanita put their children to bed, they reflected on how much their lives had changed. Do you ever regret fighting back? Juanita asked. Never, Michael replied. Those reporters thought they could hurt our children without consequences. They were wrong. What do you think would have happened if we had just stayed quiet? Michael thought about that question. If they had hidden in their house, if they had let the harassment continue, if they had never fought back, Jeffrey would still be afraid to go to school. Marcus would still be scared of strangers. And Jasmine would still be getting sick from stress. And other families would be going through the same thing we went through. Exactly. As they turned off the lights, Michael realized something important. This fight had been about more than protecting his own children. It had been about protecting the idea that childhood should be sacred, that making money didn't give adults the right to terrorize kids. That being famous didn't mean your children belonged to the public. The next morning, Michael got a phone call that surprised him. Mr. Jordan, this is Rebecca Santos. Rebecca was the private investigator who had helped document the harassment of his family. Rebecca, what can I do for you? Actually, it's what I can do for other families. I wanted you to know that I've started a new business. What kind of business? Protection services for families dealing with media harassment. I help them document illegal behavior and work with lawyers to stop it. How many families are you helping? 50 so far. Movie stars, politicians, athletes, even regular people who become famous by accident. And they're all using the legal strategy we developed? They're all using the Jordan method. Document everything, build an ironclad case, then hit back so hard that the media industry learns to respect boundaries. Michael smiled. The fight he had started to protect his own family was now protecting families everywhere. A week later, Michael received the most meaningful recognition of his life. It wasn't a basketball award or athletic honor. It was a letter from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Dear Mr. Jordan, on behalf of pediatricians across the United States, we want to thank you for your work protecting children from media harassment. The Jordan Family Protection Act has already prevented countless cases of stress-related illness in young people. You have made America's children healthier and safer. The letter was signed by thousands of doctors who worked with children every day. Michael hung the letter in his study, right next to his basketball trophies. But the moment that meant the most to Michael came on a quiet Tuesday evening. He was playing basketball with Jeffrey and Marcus in their driveway. 9-year-old Jeffrey was getting pretty good at shooting. 6-year-old Marcus was learning to dribble. 3-year-old Jasmine was sitting on the porch, clapping and cheering for her brothers. A car drove slowly past their house. Michael tensed up for just a moment, remembering the days when strange cars meant trouble. But this car just kept driving. The family inside waved at the Jordan children playing basketball. No cameras, no stopping, no harassment, just neighbors. Being neighborly. "Daddy, watch this," Jeffrey called out, attempting a shot from far away. The ball bounced off the rim, but Jeffrey smiled anyway. "Good try, buddy," Michael said. "Keep practicing. Will you teach me to play like you did?" Michael thought about that question. His basketball career had made him famous around the world, but protecting his family had made him something better. "Jeffrey, I'll teach you to play basketball. But, more importantly, I'll teach you to stand up for what's right. What if bad people try to hurt our family again? Then we'll be ready for them." "How?" Michael pointed to the house where his family lived safely, to the neighborhood where children could play without fear, to the country where new laws protected kids from adult predators with cameras. "Because we built a shield around everything we love, and that shield will last forever." As the sun set over Highland Park, Illinois, Michael Jordan watched his children play in their yard without a care in the world. No strangers hiding in bushes, no photographers climbing trees, no reporters shouting questions at scared little kids. Just a family being a family. 5 years earlier, Michael Jordan had been the most famous basketball player on earth. But people would forget his basketball games. They would forget his statistics and his trophies. They would never forget the father who changed the world to protect his children. The Jordan Family Protection Act would protect millions of kids for generations to come. Other countries would copy the law, extending protection around the globe. Media companies would think twice before targeting children, and parents everywhere would know they had the legal power to fight back against anyone who tried to hurt their kids. Michael Jordan had won 6 NBA championships. But this victory was bigger than basketball. This victory was forever. Years later, when Jeffrey Jordan became a father himself, he would tell his own children about the day their grandfather taught the world that some things are more important than fame, more valuable than money, and worth fighting for no matter what the cost. The safety of children. The sanctity of family. The simple right of kids to be kids. Michael Jordan had built a shield around his family that became a shield around every family in America. And when children asked their parents why strangers couldn't take pictures of them without permission, the answer would always be the same. Because of Michael Jordan. Because he loved his children enough to change the world. From a father's desperate fight to protect his kids from media harassment to federal laws that now safeguard millions of children worldwide, Michael proved that sometimes the greatest victories happen off the court. We'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us your city or country. It's amazing to connect with our global family of listeners. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one. We share real tales of courage, love, and people who stood up for what's right when it mattered most. And here's something special you can do. Share this video with your friends and family. Stories like Michael's remind us that one person's courage can protect countless others. By spreading these stories, you're helping spread kindness and awareness about protecting children everywhere. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most important games aren't played on any court or field. They're played in the moments when we choose to protect the people we love. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.